Hello, and welcome to The Powers in You with host Leora. Today I have two special guests that are great friends of mine, Yvette and Sam Moreno, retired from the LAPD, and we're going to talk about everything. First, I'd like to introduce them. There's Yvette and Sam Moreno.
Hello.
So can you guys go ahead and just give me a little bit of, what you did in LAPD? Yvette, you want to go first?
Okay. All right. I joined the department in 1988. I had one son at the time. When I first joined, everybody starts in patrol. So I worked South Central, and I worked a lot of different divisions. And then from there, I became a detective, and I worked juveniles and gangs. And then I went to cars. I worked cars and cargo, which was really interesting. When I left detectives, I then went to become a Sergeant 1 to go back to the field because I really had enjoyed working in the field. And I went back to South Central, and then I finished it off in West LA. And I retired after 29 years and 8 months.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Great career.
58 months.
So I came on in 1983, and like Yvette, we all start in patrol. But I'll just give you some of the jobs that I've worked over in my career. I was a homicide investigator, sex crime investigator, I worked vice. I worked undercover narcotics, worked beach details. A good part of my career was spent in South Los Angeles, either working as a gang sergeant. Also spent some time on the West Side as a gang officer. And I finished my career as I became a computer expert in forensics, and in that expertise, I supported other specialized units of the department investigating child pornography and all the other crimes that occurred in the city that involved computers. So that's where I retired out of.
And collectively, you have how many years between the two of you?
Over 50.
Yeah, over 50.
Yeah, close.
50, almost 60.
Yeah, there was about 60 years of experience between the two of us.
And you guys have covered almost everything that there is to cover in what the police force does.
Yeah, I call them the television jobs, the jobs that they make television programs out of, homicide and, crimes and vice and all that stuff. But we have a lot of experience, and we're really familiar with the city of Los Angeles and the surrounding area, because of our time in LAPD.
Right. And what I want to say is, I love you both. You guys have been in our family friends for years. Our kids went to school together, and I got to know Yvette. Then I got to know Sam and fell in love with you both. Yvette, you spoke at my son's memorial. And, I'm going to actually interview your daughter, Danny, who is running for the USA team. You've raised these wonderful children. Your oldest child, Yvette, is a Marine, and I saw a picture of you with you and Obama and Ryan, which was awesome. And then you've got two other kids along with Danny. And then Sam, you have another daughter too who excels. And you guys are these amazing people. You're amazing citizens. You're amazing friends. You've been there for me. You've been there for my family. And it's just been, for me, a pleasure to know you. And I always know that if the zombies come,
we're going to help you.
So, the reason that I wanted to talk to you today is because there's a lot of talk around now about defunding the police department. And my son Brandon had autism, and he was severe, and we had to call the police a few times. And there were times when the police came to the home and they said, if he touches me, I'll hurt him. And this was, back in the early 2000s. And things have changed, like the way that in LAPD, especially so tell me about if you were to get a call now to, some disturbance in the home with someone who was mentally ill, or tell me how that would go.
Yeah, I'm going to let Yvette speak to that because she had a lot of experience in West LA with those issues, given the homeless population there. And a lot of residents have children with needs. So I'll let her speak to that.
We, if you look back to 1988, I'm going to kind of give you, instead of going right to it, I'm going to give you a little bit of history. All right. When I first came on the job, if there was somebody that needed to be mentally evaluated, a social worker would go, and then more kept getting more and more frequent that the social workers would get injured. So slowly things would change, and what would happen is then it changed to where they would come to the station and we would go with them. But you would still need a psychologist, all right? And then as time went on, the social workers stopped. They just stopped going, and instead it was just us. And we didn't have the training to deal with that, it was sad. We did the best we could, but we didn't have the training. So then they said, okay, wait, we're missing something big here. And so slowly through the years, it changed to what it is now. And what it is now is everybody receives training. And when there's specific cars that go to mental evaluation calls, or what we call a 5150, but you have two officers, you have the social worker, and you have the psychologist all responding together, all right? So you have 4 very well-trained people, 4 people that can actually do something for the family and help them out, whereas before the social worker could help the family but couldn't help the person. You needed a psychologist. We were just there as brute strength, and that's it. And pretty much told, let them handle it. However, they couldn't handle it without us. Now, everybody's trained. They all respond in the same car together. It's a beautiful thing. But because of this defunding, all the best programs are what they're going to get rid of, because you still have to have so many officers on the street. And that, to me, is probably the most frustrating thing. I mean, I can keep going, but you ask more questions.
And people think that defunding is the answer. And I remember a few years ago, maybe 15 years ago, they defunded mental health.
Yes.
Away the money, and then you're dealing with kids going back into homes that are, really bad, and kids actually getting killed. And so when you defund something, you're not just you think you're taking away a problem. That money goes for education, and that money is utilized. We need to educate rather than take away monies that you so desperately, or the police force so desperately needs.
Yeah. I mean, so there's a perception that we're just going to speak to our department because that's a department we know. But it is one of the largest metropolitan departments in the country. And I think it's reflective of what other departments experience in terms of, how we deal with uses of force and those type of things. Because the issue here, politically is that, police officers use too much force too often, okay, and too excessively. But if you just look at LAPD alone, LAPD last year in 2019 had over 1,600,000 contacts with people, and let's just speak to the most type of use of force there is, which is officer-involved shootings. Out of those 1,600,000 plus contacts, how many do you think of those resulted in a shooting? I can tell you, less than 21 out of that number. Okay, this is for 2019, 21, and if you want to get a percentage on that, it's less than 0.001%.
Wow. And that's, I'm very proud of LAPD. You guys handle things is amazing. And
I mean, it is amazing. That's 21 shootings out of, basically 1.5 million contacts.
Yeah.
If you were a doctor and had that success rate, you would be the most incredible doctor in the world. If you had students, graduating at that success rate, you would be lauded as a great, educational institution. But people look at the LAPD and say, well, that 0.001%, that's too much. We need to take money away from you. And that's kind of this reverse thinking that has me a little nonplussed, because how can you look at that success rate in terms of when we don't use force and say, well, that's not good enough. You guys are still brutal, or in the words of one politician, killers. It doesn't make sense to me. So the defunding is going to do nothing but hurt the community. We have, when I say we, I'm talking about the LAPD, I still feel a part of, we have programs for youth. In South Los Angeles, we have the Watts Bears. It's a youth football team that's run by police officers that serves a minority community. Okay, in every station we have officers assigned to specific areas, to community advisory boards that talk about their specific problems in their community. If we have less officers to hire and we don't replace officers who retire, where do you think they're going to get police officers? Because the PD's main function is to patrol, respond to cause for service, and to facilitate the flow of traffic. That's a police department's main function in any community, is to do those functions. If those responsibilities are going to suffer due to lack of personnel, the first thing they're going to do is take personnel from those programs that, by the way, didn't exist in 1983. By the way, didn't exist when she was hired. And it took us 20 years to get to the point where we are have the least amount of shootings in 30 years in 2019. The least amount of shooting in 30 years. And I believe in my heart that's a result of all this community policing that we've been doing, all the training upon training that we've been doing, all the alternate, less than lethal tools that we've been given to help deal with violent people, so that we don't have to do the ultimate, use of force. And it worked. Yeah. And now people want to reverse this. It makes no sense to me. I don't see, the epidemic of use of force in terms of police officer shootings. And if I get to the rest of types of use of force, statistically, it just doesn't bear out that, police are heavy-handed. The stats do not bear it out. And I can give you a source for those stats later if you want, but
it would be great.
Yeah. So
LAPD is a shining example that I wish all the other cities across the United States had the funding, had the same type of programs that LAPD does. I remember even when there were rioting a couple years ago, and they were in the freeway.
Yes.
And I just was so worried about you, and I'm like, be careful. And like, we're just, watching. I think the amount of care that you guys put into your work to not be the answers, to try to wait and see when you're putting your own life in danger, you're stepping back, and that's the training you've had, is just to assess things and try to remain calm. And, I think it's brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
And, things that come to mind and that I've heard stories is, when police officers go to work, that one of the things that they want to do is come home at night, right? I've heard you say that. I want to come home at night. I want to be home.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a little secret about police officers. We don't like paperwork. Okay. When you're involved in the use of force, the reams of even a minor one, a little one, the amount of scrutiny that it invites, first of all, okay, the amount of paperwork, and, due to, whatever stereotypical view you might have of officers, the vast majority of us don't want to hurt people. Okay. We want successes. Okay. If there's somebody who's a threat to the community, yeah, we want to capture those people because we care about the vast majority who are not a threat to the community. Those people deserve to live in peace. Those people deserve to go to work, safely. Those people deserve not to have to worry about a predator existing in their community. Okay, so however that predator came to be is a different issue. All right, but the fact is, you remove the threat first, and then we try to fix the problem, whatever that problem is. So, but in answer to your question is, we don't, our police officers, at least in my experience, our experience, we didn't wake up in the morning thinking, oh, today is a good day to use force on somebody, or I hope I get to use force on somebody, because that is the most negative and part of what we had to do. And it was the part that we had as little to do with as possible, if at all possible, so no police officer wants to get involved in the shooting that I know of, because the scrutiny is incredible. Because when you get in a shooting, you have your own department scrutinizing you. You have the district attorney's office scrutinizing you. You have the California general attorney scrutinizing you. The FBI can take a look, and you're basically you basically, committed, if you killed the person, you technically committed a homicide, and your shooting is going to be investigated like a homicide. It's a lot of pressure, and based on the number that I gave you, 21 shootings out of 1.5 million contacts plus, that tells the story. Police officers don't want to do that, but they don't have to. The vast majority of them, there may be some outlier, in that group that maybe thinks that's a good idea, but I guarantee you, getting involved in violence is the last thing that we want to do. So yeah, we get up in the morning and we attend to our priorities, and that's our family, our friends, our people in trouble, people who need help, some joy in our lives, breaking bread with each other, talking to friends. And then, yeah, we have to get prepared for the job at hand. And then we get into our mindset, and then for the next 10 hours or 12 hours, or whatever the case may be, that's our job, our responsibility that we signed up for, our vocation. And yeah, we do it and we try to do it well. And then after it's over, we get back to the other important things in life: family, friends, love, laughter, and everything else.
So this model of the LAPD, why is it that it can't be nationwide? Is that funding?
Well, it's funding, and it's basically two things. Not all police departments are the same. So if you have a poorly funded police department, in the Midwest or the South, then I'm of the opinion, yeah, you're going to get what you want to pay for, because those officers are less trained. They're probably less happy with their job than we are, because we were, a well-paid department, because we're professionals, but some departments, don't have that ability, right? Like, right. I mean, you've seen a few in your travels, law enforcement.
They just don't have the same training. We're very fortunate that up until now that we had a lot of extra training, and through the years, I think because we have our own police academy also, it makes a difference, because they see where when we go out on the calls, or they bring us back and ask us, what do you need? It's like, well, we need help with gangs, or we need help with, the projects we need. And so because of that, our own academy versus some people go to academy like through a college, and there's no checking back. So our instructors are outstanding. We have some very good instructors. And again, because of funding, these instructors are allowed to go throughout the country and get information and learn more, and go to, when Columbine happened. We never had anything like that happen before. But they sent a cadre of officers there to look at that situation. Then they came back and they came up with a way to make it better. So now, then when they were shooting in the school, people waited. That's not an option any longer. They found, and after they did their investigations and stuff and follow through, is that they trained us that we go in no matter what. Just 3 officers, you go in, and that's it. So, but that made a difference in different shootings here, that lives were saved. But other smaller departments, like again, the Midwest and back east, they don't have that same opportunities that we do. So it makes a difference. It makes a big difference.
So that's where you could get, police officers that are not trained well, or, things can happen like the George Floyd thing, right? Where like that wouldn't happen in LAPD, where you would have him in that position. I remember you talking to me about putting them in a prone position, and you said we're not allowed to do something like that.
We're not allowed, yeah. We have to put them on their sides so they can breathe.
Right? And so that's a lack of training.
Well, yeah, I mean, because what we found was, we're not doctors, right? I mean, we have experience dealing with people that we take into custody, but we can't recognize, a kind of tacit or quiet asphyxiation occurring, or maybe some medical personnel could recognize it right away. So yeah, that's right. We learned that, we don't know what they're under the influence of, or what they've done in the past few hours. And we don't know that putting them on their stomach is going to suffocate them, okay? Because maybe they don't have the ability to speak out. Maybe their response process in their mind has been slowed down. They can't ask for help, and something critical happens. So yeah, we were taught, put them on their side, because you don't know, control the situation, but have them on their side in case there's a medical problem that you don't recognize, so they can breathe. So
Right.
yeah, that's training.
And then in training too, the response of, like, say you're on a high speed chase and, it's been going on and the person you're chasing is hitting things and hitting cars. And it's like this vamped up, adrenaline thing. Is that something also that you're trained for, is to where you don't lose your training when you go into a situation where your adrenaline takes over? Or is that?
Yeah, you're the expert on that. I'll let you talk on that.
I can say that you always take that breath, and they've trained us to do that. However, you could take it to a different level, and that's something that we also have every day. There's roll call training. Every day something comes up and they're going to talk about it, and you're going to practice that. So I can give you an example that we were in a situation where someone was shooting at us. I know firsthand that my heart rate completely dropped because of our watches that we have nowadays. And I was expecting it to go out of, when I looked at it, I'm like, oh, I know that when he did this, that it probably, no, my heart rate completely dropped. And I know that part of that was getting into the mindset and relaxing and breathing. And there's a certain calmness that comes over you. Why? Training. With training, you learn how to do that and how to assess your own body. So I think we're really good at that. And that's another thing they've taken to a whole new level. They never talked about that before. And now that's something that they talk about, taking that extra breath, taking that 1 second for everybody, and for your own health too. So.
And that's training. And with training, you need funding.
Yes.
Funding takes away all of it, and it exacerbates what they think that they're trying to solve by defunding.
I think they believe, and this is just a complete personal feeling, that by defunding, that the officers will get paid less, and basically it's like a spanking kind of thing. We're going to make you suffer for all of this, but it's completely backwards.
Yeah, like a punitive action.
Yeah.
Than, and it goes back to like what I think about the war on drugs a long time ago. And what really helped was educating people about it.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's when the DARE program came.
Yeah, right. Which has been amazing.
I think people are good. It's just this one sliver, and I do believe it's a sliver of people who've taken this as an opportunity to, whatever their agenda is, defund, that's not going to help their community. It's going to hurt their community.
Right.
It's not going to hurt us in the sense that, maybe they won't hire more people. It'll hurt us in the sense that we'll have to work more. When I say we, I mean my officers on the job now, but we'll still have jobs, so yeah, but, so anyways, I'm done. I'm sorry.
Awesome. You're awesome. Is there anything in closing that you would like to say, Yvette and Sam?
Thank you for asking us to speak. It's probably the most important thing. So I hope it's heard. I hope the message is heard. We're always willing to talk to anybody. Talk. We're not going to have an argument, but we'll talk and we'll listen. And that's all that we would ask in return. So thank you.
Yeah. Don't defund your police department. You're going to hurt your community. You really are. And politically, you're really not going to accomplish much. But for the vast majority of us, let's protect our people and what we've earned, and and help those who don't have as much. Don't let them suffer at the hands of others. Let's get them some protection. So, yeah. So thank you for letting us talk. Appreciate it.
Thank you both for being open and being honest and just being you. I know who you are, and I want the world to know who you are, and I want people to understand the realness, the truth of what it's all about and what we need. And you are a part of what we need, and your department that you came from is a part of what we need across the nation. So I thank you for being here,